Let's speak about Lordstown Motors, baby. What is happening, investors? It is your boy Jack. I am not a financial advisor. I got the clothing line to prove that fact. And today we are speaking about a company that is at $10 a share. Yes, it is Lordstown Motors. So for very obvious reasons, I have been getting asked very often. Have I been buying more? What do I think of everything that's going on with the Hindenburg short report? What do I think about the future of Lordstown Motors, considering it is now at $10 a share? Ultimately, have I been buying, selling, or just holding? And I personally think that this graph best describes it. I mean, buy the dip, they said. I bought the dip here, I bought the dip here, and it just keeps on dipping and dipping and dipping. So short and sweet, I have been buying more Lordstown Motors. I am down considerably. I mean, I am feeling the pain like all of you guys. The first shares I ever bought were at, I believe it was $10.80 a share, but I also bought them in the 20s on a few occasions. So yes, we are in pain. So there's a few things I want to speak about in today's video, okay? Obviously, the price being at $10 a share. What do I think about that? The fact that the market cap's at $1.77 billion. What do I think of the pre-orders? What do I think of the Hindenburg report? The fact that the SEC is involved. And then this one potentially good piece of news, but could also be a potentially bad piece of news. Lordstown Motors unveils the rugged endurance pickup truck that will race in the San Felipe 250. And what I also want to do is, as I like to do quite often, is look back in time at, times where things looked really bleak for certain companies or certain commodities and see what happened throughout the future. So my friends, right before we do get into today's video, could I please ask you to hit that juicy like button? Drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you've been doing with Lordstown Motors. Have you been buying the dip, or have you been holding? Have you trimmed positions? And please, my friend, if you're already new around here, hit that juicy red subscribe button and join the family of investors. I just want to say thank you all so much for the support on the last few videos since we have got back to uploading. It means a lot to me. Also, guys, I have a little bit of an announcement. I am going to be starting streaming on Twitch. Now, it's not going to be to do with stocks. It's actually going to be about gaming. That's something else I've always loved, and I spoke recently on the channel about, I need something a little bit different to do. So we're going to start doing this every now and again. So that's going to be the first link in the description today. If you would please click that. Go drop me a follow. It genuinely would mean an awful lot to me. My first stream should be happening tomorrow. And if you're interested in joining my private Discord group, that's going to be the second link in the description, my friends. And if you like 2 free stocks on Weeble, that'll be the third link, baby. But now let's get into Lordstown Motors. So what we are going to do is we're going to start it off with potentially, the biggest piece of news surrounding this company as of right now, aside from the old news being the Hindenburg report, okay? The fact that they will be racing in the San Felipe 250. So in this particular race, there are 350 purpose-built vehicles competing. Less than half of them cross the finish line. So Lordstown will use the grueling event to showcase its technology. And not only is Lordstown aiming to make its endurance pickup truck the first electric vehicle to ever finish the race, it wants to use the race to prove the superiority of its in-hub motor technology. So why could this be either very good or very bad for Lordstown Motors on Monday next week? This is happening today, by the way. Well, if they finish, that's awesome. They will be the first electric vehicle to finish, and it will show that, the hub motor tech is viable and it is good. We don't know that yet. On paper, I love hub motor tech alongside pretty much every single Lordstown Motors investor, but the fact of the matter is we don't know if it's actually viable just yet. It makes sense, it should be viable, but is it? If you look at the Hindenburg report, okay, it says the Lordstown Motors Mirage, fake orders, undisclosed production hurdles, and a prototype inferno. We don't really care about the prototype inferno, that's normal. But undisclosed production hurdles. Basically, what Hindenburg is saying is that, Lordstown Motors is telling us one thing, but there's a different thing happening in reality. Now, the sources for this are past employees, no names, etc. Not very, reputable. We'll have to wait and see. But I do know that, personally, one of the biggest concerns from actual Lordstown Motors investors, not shorts, but actual bulls, is, is the technology good enough? Are we investing in what is actually going to be a good truck? Because it doesn't matter if you first to market if you have a bad truck. So if they are to beat this race, okay, which less than half of the competitors do, as an electric pickup truck with this hub motor tech, it's going to be a very, very good thing for the company. And that can be used as an argument against many, and I mean truly many, of the things that Hindenburg bring up in their own personal reports, and it will put a lot of investor concerns to bed. The other thing is, okay, if they don't finish, it's not going to reflect well on the company whatsoever. I mean, they didn't finish. What's so special about this vehicle? I think it's a pretty bold move going into it like this, especially when there's already a lot of bad press surrounding Lordstown Motors as of right now. Because if things go good, yes, there more than likely is going to be a handsome reward on the other side of that. that. Is it going to affect the stock price too much? I don't think it's going to be anything crazy, but I do think we could see a nice bump. Because let's be honest, a lot of people are going to be very happy to buy Lordstown Motors at $10 a share if, you know, the SEC comes back and says, you know what, no, Hindenburg have it wrong. They haven't done anything wrong at Lordstown. So if we find out, you know, before the SEC comes back that this vehicle is already good enough to, you know, do what they're setting out to do, yeah, a lot of people are going to be willing to buy in. But if things go poorly, it's not going to look good, my friends. I'm going to just come out and say it. And the fact that less than half of these vehicles, purpose-built vehicles, crossed the finish line in the first place, is going to be tough. It's going to be a tough challenge, in my opinion. But I am glad to see them, you know, going at this proactively and really trying to prove that, you know, this is a good truck. Because that's what us investors need to see at this stage when all of our money just keeps falling and falling and falling. So essentially, if Lordstown Motors proves their tech here, they will hope that we'll be convinced the Endurance is more than capable to tackle everything the customers can throw at it. And just so you guys are aware, this race is a 290-mile desert loop. And Lordstown's truck is limited to 250 miles. So I mean, it really feels like they're going for it. I don't know what their plan is. I really hope it works out, guys. Because if it doesn't, ooh, I don't know how much more red I can take, my friends. So that's kind of the piece of news that is here as of today. You know, it could go well for us, it could go poorly. Yet again, we're going to have to wait and see. Now, what I would actually like to cover next is a meme. It's quite weird that I'm covering a meme on this channel, but whatever. So, buy the dip. You will see this is from the Bitcoin Reddit 2 years ago. And you see, I bought the dip, and it keeps going down and down and down. A very popular meme in the world of stocks. I mean, everybody wants to buy the dip, but you don't want to buy all of the dips. So, I mean, this has been the case with Ride. There's a dip, okay? There is a dip. There's a dip. There's a dip. I mean, it looks like that. It literally looks like that. It's potentially even a bit steeper. You'll see it has somewhat regulated a little bit here, but ultimately, let's be honest, it's going down, down, down. So this was in regards to Bitcoin. And this was back towards the end of 2017, okay? Where Bitcoin made highs of, I believe it was close to $20,000-ish dollars, wherever it was. Yeah, there it is, okay? And boom, people kept buying the dip, and it kept going down. 83%. Now, what happened to the people who were willing to hold that for the better part of a year and a half, 2.5 years even? They're up nearly 2,000%. Now, I am by no means trying to say that Lordstown has that potential to go up 2,000% in a year and a half. Not whatsoever. But the main point I'm trying to make out is, you know, this happens to a lot of companies. And again, I know Bitcoin's not a company, but you know, it falls into that investment category of somewhat speculative, especially back then. Now, I think there's a lot more of a case to be made for Bitcoin, obviously, but back then, you know, it was still a very spec thing to do. So they dropped 80%, now they're up over 2,000%. The people who bought the dips and were willing to hold, as opposed to the people who bought the highs of 20,000 and sold at the lows, are in a much, much, much better position. If you look at the large majority of stock charts out there, you are going to see similar stories. Tesla, okay, over about a 6-month period, lost 50% of its value from the end of 2018 to the start of 2019, or the middle of 2019, I should say. And again, this is not me trying to compare Lordstown Motors to Tesla in any way whatsoever, but I mean, same thing happened. They had that huge dip. Tesla has had that many times throughout their past. But look what happened to the people who held. Again, similar to Bitcoin, 2,000%. They were up more than 2,000%. And again, I don't think Ride has this potential in all honesty. Not over the next year and a half, 2 years. I think it has a lot of potential over the next 5 to 10 years if things go as expected. If, you know, the bull case scenario does play out. And I think that's something people need to keep in mind whenever we are speaking about growth stocks or slightly more speculative stocks. A lot of these EV stocks that have just come to popularity over the last, you know, 6 to 18 months. When you invest in these companies, you are more often than not investing in the bull case scenarios. And the truth be told, not all of these companies are going to perform really well. We've spoken about this many times on the channel. That's why I do like being diversified in, you know, a good few of these EV companies. All it takes is one to do extremely well. So the question you have to ask yourself after taking all of the information that is readily available to you, after reading the investor presentations, after looking at the earnings call, okay, after reading through the Hindenburg report in its entirety, and essentially taking all of this information, and you have to decide, at $10 a share, do you think that, you know, the upside outweighs the downside with Lordstown Motors? My personal opinion, in the bull scenario, yes. No doubt in my mind, in fact. I mean, look at the pre-orders we already have in comparison to that market cap. Even if they're to get 10% of them over the next year or so, it's going to be incredible. What can happen over the next 5 years? An awful, awful lot. There are a lot of things that need to be addressed, and right now it's a waiting game. We need to hear from the SEC, my friends. There is no point in us speculating, no point in us just making things up that we want to believe. We have to wait for the SEC or Lordstown Motors to come out with more information in regards to this short report. In the bull scenario, the large majority of this gets proved to be false, and Lordstown Motors goes straight back to 20, 30 and beyond in the years to come. In the bear scenario, Lordstown Motors has to find a bottom, and that more than likely is not $10 if some of the really damning things from this report come out to be true. I mean, look, it's already dropped 60+% of its value, and we don't even know if the large majority of the report is true. So you can imagine that if a lot of it does come out to be true, even more people are going to sell. What I'm trying to get at, my friends, is, there's two sides to every stock here. Things can go well, things can go poorly. You have to invest, based off of the information that is at hand. Me personally, I think at $10 a share, yeah, it's fantastic value. You are, of course, still going to be risking a considerable amount of money. Lordstown Motors certainly can go lower, especially in that bear case scenario. So just do be aware of that, my friends. Don't think, it's a guarantee just because you get to buy at $10 a share. But it's a lot nicer buying at 10 than 30. But my friends, they really are my updated thoughts on Lordstown Motors. The simple fact of it is that as of right now, it's a waiting game. We have to see what happens literally today in this race. And we have to see what happens with Hindenburg and the SEC. We have to see what happens whenever Steve Barnes comes out and makes his next statement. The thing is, they can't say a lot of things right now because they are under SEC investigation. Let's just say it. If you're in the mood for something safe, or if you haven't been following these guys for a long time, more than likely, take it easy. Don't just go jumping in there. If they pique your interest, make sure you go and do your research, my friends. If you've been following them for a long time, you should already know why you're invested. You should have your conviction, as do I. But I mean, us Lordstown Motors investors went through it before. Who remembers this drop? September to November, a 58% drop, followed by a 120% up move. And now we're seeing it again, but even more extreme, a 67% drop. But anyway, my friends, that's it for my Lordstown Motors video. If you watched till the end, you are a true legend, and I really do appreciate you being here from the bottom of my heart. If you enjoyed, perhaps got some value, some entertainment, could I please ask you to hit that juicy like button, drop me that comment down below, and please, my friends, subscribe if you're new around here. And please, if you're feeling extra generous today, it would mean the world to me if you would go and follow my Twitch. It's free, you don't have to pay anything, but it would be absolutely awesome to have a few followers on there before our first stream. If you're interested in joining that private Discord group, that's the second link, and if you want some free stocks on Webull, that's the third link. Anyway, guys, I hope you all have a beautiful, blessed day. I'll see you for another video very soon. Peace.